Hi, my name is Sigurd. I do music and sound design mainly for video games, and today I would like to talk a bit about interactive music and more specifically how we use layering, stems and loops to make the game feel more alive and responsive. Traditional music in video games actually used to be very static. You hit a level, the music starts, and it basically just plays from beginning to end, even looping if necessary, no matter what the player actually did. But games aren't linear like, for example, movies. They change based on what the player does, and the music should too. So what do we mean by interactive and adaptive music? Well, interactive music changes based on what the player does in the game. Say the player enters combat, the music needs to ramp up. They leave combat, it should come back down. They're low on health, add some tension.
Here, I knew that I smelled money. That'll be 100 caps. Or you can just bleed to death.
We do this by splitting the music into basically stems and loops. So what are stems? Well, stems are basically grouped layers of audio. It could either be just instrumentation, so you have all the drums in one stem and all the synths and in one stem and all the strings and so on and so on. Stems could also, in the game world, be all the ambient instrumentation in one and all the more action-packed, hard-hitting stuff in another stem. And each one of these stems can be looped and played without the other, so I can play an ambient layer until the gamer decides to go in another direction where enemies suddenly spawn, and now we can put on a layer of percussion to kind of ramp up the music. Basically, this modular approach to music means that we can turn layers on and off, all depending on what the player actually does. Now, we don't just only need to split into layers. All these layers also are needed to loop perfectly. That way, even if it's just an ambient layer playing, we can also go directly into going full bazinga and one big combat move, right? Without the player noticing anything that there are any overlapping gaps in the actual audio.
What was that?
To make this work perfectly, we use what's called middleware, and that's usually, more often than not, either called FMOD or Wwise or Wwise, depending on how you read that. And sometimes also directly in Unity and Unreal and so on, but that's a lot more complicated. These tools let us set the conditions for the music. It could be triggered by how low you are on health, if you enter combat, if you go out of combat, if you enter into a dark place or a highly lit place. It lets us blend or crossfade layers, so these different stems and loops can just go seamlessly into each other without any hiccups or problems. And we can also sync it all to a master clock, so these stems don't go out of time with each other when you kind of blend them together. As a composer, this changes how you write this music. You're not just composing a track anymore, you're making a music system. Every stem needs to feel satisfying and good on its own. You need to think about transitions. How will this work when the combat actually kicks in? And you have to make it loopable, so it loops seamlessly no matter what you do and how you kind of connect the layers. It's more like scoring a living world rather than just writing a song. So that's the very basic approach to layering and interactive music in video games. Splitting into stems, designing clean loops, and using tools to make it all responsive to gameplay. It's more work up front, but the end result, it means a way more immersive audio experience. It makes the player feel like the music is following them and not the other way around. If you're a composer or a developer and you're curious about implementing this kind of system, feel free to drop me a comment or reach out on different social medias. And if you want to hear more examples or breakdowns of music, just let me know. I'm not a fan of asking for this stuff, but apparently it actually works. So hit that like and the subscribe thingy. Apparently if you actually say that, stuff might happen. So thank you for watching. Have a very nice day.